And I think I'll start with Uran. So, Farwah, happy to hear from your side as to what was the thought process behind setting up Uran. And I think initially there was also research done on the needs of women. So, committees are something that have been used for quite a lot of time in this part of the world, and also in other areas. There have been attempts to digitize savings projects and digitize Roscas as well. And we do get this question very often from different circles, is that how did Uran crack the code and how were they able to become sustainable or profitable? So want to understand the research process as well, want to understand what specific needs you zoomed in, and how did you ensure that your business is responsive to the needs of the women?
Yeah. So, I'll start with, in 2018, 5 years, 6 years ago, pre-COVID, the digital space was very different, right? What we started with was just a research question. What are the savings and what is the opportunity in creating a market and serving saving space for Pakistanis? And as I started that research, we immediately understood that committees is a very large part of how people manage their money. Whether you're saving, you're spending, you're getting loans, you're getting something for quick emergency needs, managing, it's working capital for wholesalers across Pakistan, right? There are all sorts of committees that occur. And as we did that research, we did a very large quantitative. I ran that, and around that time, I met my co-founder Halima, and we realized that because committees is so intrinsic to how people understand money, and it's one of the only things that are actually gender, I would say, more women do it than men, right? 3 times more women do it, 3 times more than men do, and that's a financial product that women use more than men anywhere in the world. So looking at both the fact that one, it was used by women, it was used by everybody, it's so easily understood, it's a social norm. People use it for all sorts of their managing their money needs, right? Understanding that, what we started doing was, okay, how can you get people to manage? How can you actually get people to put or provide information? So our first pilot was really just around understanding how those people who manage committees, how do they run their committees? What do they need? What kind of accounting system do they need, right? We looked at even Hisab Kitab as a similar sort of thought process. How do you have a ledger system, right? I think that's how that might have started off as well. And then as you start building and you start seeing, okay, people are willing to give you money because there is a need for something. But that didn't occur initially. And we started realizing very fast that there's a need to pivot into something that what is that one thing that people are willing to pay for in the committee space. It's not just the accounting, it's not just ki hame pe, but it's that management of the committee. That management of and part of that was running our own committees within our own circles, and seeing, okay, what is the worst? And that goes back to research, UI, UX, understanding what is the greatest pain point and what is the best thing that you see, right? What is the delights? And when you start looking at that, when you start understanding that in any product or in any problem you go out to solve, you start seeing where's the gap, because the biggest pain points are where people are willing to pay for you. And so we started seeing that, okay, because people are having a hard time actually creating those committees or managing those money or going and finding that committee. आपको पैसे तो जरूरत हो जाते हैं. You need them for a kids school fees. You're going to plan 3 months in advance. Your daughter's getting married. You're planning a year in advance, sometimes 5 years in advance, depending on which social strata you come from or how earlier on you're planning things. You are looking for a fridge. You know that 4 months in advance or 3 months in advance. You're already planning these, but you know that you're not going to get that money up front because loans and credit is also a very taboo word and a thought process in Pakistan. People aren't just going to say कि हाँ मुझे लोन चाहिए, कहेंगे कि हमें कमिटी चाहिए. And it's just that simple thought process of how just words, right? And that's how do you create something that's more user centric, just changing words, not just changing words, but changing your product to be able to be understood by the person in front was very important. And that's the process we went through to get to that. And when we did, when we started realizing that, okay, this makes sense. People are willing to pay for this. People are coming back again and again. You knew this was a working model, and that's how it worked for us.
I think, yeah, there are a couple of useful points that you've mentioned there. So, people thinking of it as a financing tool, it's also something that's interest-free. And yes, the kind of people it's targeting, they don't always have the time or the money to socialize, to have those kitty parties and then do a risk assessment of their friends, of their social circle. They might not even have a lot of friends who have that kind of capital. So that's the need that you very accurately address. Just right on it, just curious about your target segment as well. How did you define your target segment? And please go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll say one thing. When I started off doing this, it was, how do people the only one or two things, especially when you're starting off research, it's okay, you can't, the world is not your oyster. You do have to narrow into a certain extent, otherwise it's too costly, right? So the few things we did when we started off as a target audience was they have to be smartphone capable, and they have to be urban, not rural, because obviously money is across rural and urban and across social economic strata. Our first initial research told us very early on, across income groups, committees is the most prevalent used financial product. आप नीचे जाते हैं, down the pyramid, it goes up to 56%, and you go to the top 1%, you're still at 36%. Your average middle income is using it at about 41%. That's what our research showed us. No, understanding that, you realize that middle income is where you can change that needle for economic purposes as well. There's a big burgeoning space that is aspiring, that is looking for something, that has access, but is the lost the most, right? And there's not enough institutions, organizations out there, or there weren't at least, right, 5 years ago, targeting this group of people. There was a lot of, and when you look at immediately, a lot of times we get, it's a non-profit, we are not, and we were not. And and the idea is there's a lot of non-profits actually helping on the rural side or on the bottom of the pyramid. So we saw this gap in also target audiences that were not being accounted for or built for. And so we looked at it as a middle income. And from there, as soon as, both, when we first started, we were a couple of different co-founders, and we found that across we want to see. But women became a very important part of our target audience, because Halima and myself in specific, we felt that need the most. Even till today, I have a hard time sometimes opening up a bank account. I still get asked the same questions no matter what. If you're an entrepreneur, I still know that a year ago, I tried to go and open another bank account, and I was asked as an entrepreneur, you're like, acha, aap housewife hai? Nahi bhai, main nahi hu. So it's these things are, there's some things just stuck in our system in a certain way, and we felt that more.
Thank you, Farwah. I'd move on to Nosheen, but what I'm hearing from Farwah is that they've been looking at data at each and every step of the journey, and they've been looking at user trends for all of the segments. So that is something that has been very instrumental in defining your journey for you. And I think